Hi! Someone said something I don't agree with. I am so offended. I need to say space.
When all your rage and apathy and antithesis builds up in you, you can't contain such a tragedy. You need your safe space. When facts explain, you run away, you don't go. You wanna scream, you whine, you can't stand it, lose your spirit. Don't need to change, why can't you change? Well, you bitch and cry like a baby. When stuff fits, you're always complaining. Destroy your case, you live some face out of my way. Well, after you, better than me is to run and think, just do what I say.
It's scary what's going on.
We can't agree to disagree. Oh no, rules of the game apply to me, but not to you. You speak your hate, tell me to change, but why can't you change? Well, you bitch and cry like a baby. When the fits, you're always complaining. When you bitch and cry like a baby. When the fits, you're always complaining.
Nobody fucking cares that you don't like chicks with dicks.
This whole trial has just got this country so upset. It's so obvious what's going on with this Kyle Rittenhouse thing.
Oh, what a shame, you're full of shame, but that ain't all.
Hello, happy Thursday night, and welcome to Creative Chaos. Anybody that's out there, Creative Chaos was developed by myself as a show to shine a spotlight on fascinating people, creating fascinating things outside the mainstream. And of course, Creative Chaos is sponsored by my magazine, Flip City, the world's best, if not only, comic satire rag in print. This is the cover of our latest edition in print. Well, one that I have physically in my hands because volume 20 is at the printer now and should be hitting mailboxes in the next few weeks. So we're super excited about that. I didn't have anything really prepared, except for I want to thank all of the readers of Flip City Magazine. You guys are who we do it for, and the only reason we exist. So thank you so much to all our readers that subscribe. If you're interested in checking Flip City out, you can go to flipcitymag.com. You can read a free magazine there, and then come back after you get those free laughs, come back and subscribe or even buy some of our past editions. With any past edition purchase, you get your own cute little handcrafted by myself tinfoil hat to read. And it says on there, place on head before reading. We want to keep you protected. So go to flipcitymag.com, subscribe, buy some past issues, get it all. Because we love what we do, our readers love what we do, and it's a great relationship. How often can you say that anymore, that we have a great relationship? All right, now normally this is the time that I bring in my sidekick Batman, and he will be back next week, I've heard, but he sent one final picture of him in Peru, and he wrote to me when he sent this, "This is my last night here," and we decided to go to El Ranchito de Linda to have our final meal. Looks like they have some delicious beans, maybe a pasta dish. I don't know why he keeps going out in his bat suit, especially after taking it off last week to send us the pictures of the Bruce Wayne. But there's Batman. We're excited to have him back next week, and we'll review basically his pictures that he's sent over the last, gosh, what's it been, 5 weeks that he's been gone? So we're excited to have you back, Batman. So let me just check my chats here, which I forget to do every week to welcome people in. I wanted to say what is up to Daisy Chains. If you're still out there, thank you for dropping the Flip City Mag sticker. Lady Mimi, hello. And Lady Mimi also dropped a Flip City sticker. And I don't see anybody active in chat on YouTube, Rumble, or for the very first time, we are streaming over on X. So we'll see how many viewers we get over there. And George Washington X says, Batman in Peru? Who's watching Gotham? Where did that come from? Is that on Phil? Anyway, you know, I'm wondering if I have problem with Rumble chat and I'm not seeing things that come up on Rumble. Anyway, so yes, Batman is in Peru, but he will be back in the States probably within a few several hours in transit in his bat plane. All right, so let's go ahead and bring in, also everybody that happens to be out there on any of those 4 platforms, it would be super helpful if you would like, share, and subscribe. And hello to Classical Chick over on Pilled as well. Thank you for popping in. So tonight our guest is Daniel P. Riley, and he is an American novelist, writing coach, and editor who made his first foray into comic books with his manga-style adaptation of his sci-fi samurai series, Jedi. Owner of whimsyland.org, literary coaching services, Daniel helps creators refine their projects in between writing his own works and spending time with his beloved daughter. He can be found every Friday on Iron Age Nights on YouTube, chatting and joking with indie creators and or drinking enough bourbon to impress even Orson Welles. So let's bring in Daniel and say hello. Hey, Daniel. So I was going to DM you to see if I pronounced your samurai book correctly, but I actually embrace embarrassing myself. So just said I. Did I say it right? Please tell me.
Pretty close. It's
okay.
It's Jisedai. It's
Jised.
In Japanese, it's second generation, or colloquially next generation.
Okay, I was trying to think of how you speak Japanese and what syllables they like emphasizing. I got it wrong.
No, you were pretty close. A lot closer than some. I've heard all sorts of interpretations of it. It's what I get for choosing something that nobody knows anything about.
Right. I actually had somebody that I'm going to have on in a few weeks send me their comic book, and I did not know how to pronounce that, but it was actually an English word I'd never heard before, so I was able to look it up today, so I can pronounce it right when we do that. So where I really wanted to start with you, because you say you drink enough bourbon on Friday nights to impress even Orson Welles. And so I was curious, are you drinking tonight?
I am having one glass, yes.
Now, are you good at sticking with that?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm very bad. If I start drinking and I want more, I never stop. And
tonight I'm by myself. If I was at a party, yeah, I probably wouldn't stop. And Friday night, it's Friday night, and it's Iron Age nights, so I'll drink as much as I want.
That's right. And over on Iron Age nights, you're the guy that just likes to kind of kick back, take it all in, and kind of throw in your humorous statements every once in a while.
Yeah, kind of the dry wit and a little bit of wisdom.
And then so you also said it was bourbon you like drinking. Do you also enjoy a wide range of whiskey and or scotch, or are you strictly a bourbon man?
I will drink quite a bit of rye. It really doesn't matter which. I just prefer bourbon.
I think I prefer bourbon as well. Well, we can get off the drinking talk now. So tell me a little bit about your graphic novels.
Oh, well, Jisedai is the comic adaptation of my novel series. So the story is about a young man who is raised to be an interesting concept, which is a corporate killer or corporate assassin. His job is to take out the competition from, rivaling corporations in this futuristic kind of over capitalized to the point where it's not good in any way, because they're battling each other for supremacy over this mega Tokyo. He was raised to be this thing, and not so much a person, but a living weapon. He was augmented through experimental sciences. There's a whole backstory to that. And his job is to kill on command. And that's it. Otherwise, he lives a very, I think the word is aesthetic life, like a monk, eats just what he needs to survive, trains and does nothing else unless the corporation says, hey, go kill that guy. And then he goes out into the city and hunts them down. And during one of those ops, he is, through fated circumstances, put in the path of a young girl fleeing sex traffickers that have had her for quite some time. And something about her, and more specifically, the little critter that she's caring for while she's on the run, reminds him of who he was long before the training and indoctrination kicked in when he was a child. So he decides he's going to protect her from these sex traffickers, but it puts him at odds with his company. And so he has to make the decision to continue to defend this girl or let the corporation erase her, basically. So he ends up fighting throughout the course of the entire story, of which I'm working on the third book now. He ends up fighting all 7 of the other enhanced corporate assassins in his unit that he's lived for and worked for the last almost 2 decades of his life.
Okay. Well, I would assume he doesn't have really any feelings either way for his.
No.
Okay.
He does not, and that's an unfortunate side effect of that sort of indoctrination, is that he's not a thinking person at the time, but he's also not a feeling person at the time. And once he accesses feelings, and the more he's around this girl, he starts to experience what humanity really is with her, who's been through this extremely traumatic ordeal but has kept a certain gentle soul about her. And
Okay.
the more he's with her, the more he feels things, and the more he wants to explore feeling those things and becoming something else. I represent that in the comic book with what I call the spirit of the sword. It's a visual graphic that my artist and I designed that has its own little bit of backstory. I did reveal it on Twitter, I think last week, but when he uses his katana, because he was trained like a futuristic samurai, only the corporation would be his ruler, the man that he's supposed to live and die for is the company. When he uses his sword to defend her, on the other hand, there is what appears to be a sprinting rabbit spirit running through the slash of the blades whenever he swings it. And that's accessing a part of his personal soul and expressing that in his defense of this girl. It's like the step towards becoming more of a person and not just a living weapon.
That's really cool. How long have you been working on the story, and what's your plan with it?
G Sedai is 2.5 years old as far as publication is concerned, but I was working on it for a year beforehand. I have 18 books outlined, 6 arcs of trilogies.
Okay. So this is something that can last you the rest of your life.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Or at least 20 years.
All right. Well,
whichever comes first. Yeah.
Well, let's hope it's more than 20 years.
You never know.
You don't seem like an old guy to me, ready to croak.
I am turning 45.
Dang! You're holding it together, brother.
Doing my best.
I think I said that the first time I met you too. I was like, you don't look that old.
Yeah, I get that.
It's probably the long hair and the facial hair too.
Yeah, probably. It's always very confusing because my daughter is 21. So people look at us and half the time they assume we're dating. And I'm like, no, this is my daughter. Ew.
Yeah. My daughter is 21 as well. And she's dating somebody that's kind of close to 30. And then I was thinking, I'm like, age difference. I'm like, he's okay. At least he's still closer to her age than my age.
Mhm.
So I think if
What's
it was
the-
closer to my age than hers, I'd be a little freaked.
I think, yeah, there was a at one point in time years ago, there was a thing going around social media about the acceptable age difference of people dating, and I think it was half the sum of the girl's age plus 8 is the acceptable range.
Half the sum of the girl's age plus 8.
Yeah.
So if
there would
she's
be like
20, if she's 20, then she can marry a date a 38-year-old, and that's acceptable.
no, if she's 20, then it's like 18 to 25 is the correct range.
Oh, okay.
I don't know the math. Don't ask me. I'm a writer.
Right. Well, and that's I think it also depends on the maturity of both parties. My daughter has always been the type that everybody thought she was older than she was by a couple of years. Even when she was a toddler and talking like a toddler, people would look at me like I was a terrible mother. Because she talked like a toddler but looked like she was 5 or something.
Poor kid.
Yeah, she's tall.
Oh,
All
well,
right.
that's good.
It is. Well, it's good for her, right?
Mhm.
And she's tall and has a really high metabolism, so she gets to eat whatever she wants, stay thin. I swear I'm not jealous. No.
Yeah. She's lucky.
Yeah.
My daughter would be jealous. She's so frustrated that she's short.
I don't know. Dudes like short girls too. Have you ever told her it'd be way worse if she was a guy?
Yeah.
Short?
Yeah, we've had that conversation.
Okay.
I'm 6'3", so I think she was hoping to be closer to me, and she's like a full foot shorter than I am.
Oh, that's so cute though.
Yeah, so she like comes up to my shoulder and it frustrates the hell out of her.
She's a girl. Well, let's talk about your coaching services. I was curious, can you give me like a brief breakdown of how you work with a new client to discover what's needed, or do they come and tell you, I need exactly this?
Sometimes we have to figure it out. Most of the time they come with a question or something that they need help with. But if we're figuring it out, if we're starting from what I consider square one, it would be, this is my idea. How do I write this? And then from that point on, I operate in 1-hour sessions. I have a single pay system. You pay for an hour, or I have a discount for 4 sessions. I think is 120 for 4 sessions, or 35 each. So each session we'll sit down and start working on how to do the outline, what the outline's needed in order to do that. We'll work on characterizations. I like to make sure that all of the bases are set before anybody starts writing. Not big on pantsing. That's a term that you hear on social media a lot, which is basically, I just write crazy stuff and, figure it out as I go along. It never worked for me, and it doesn't seem to work for any of the clients that I've had to start from square one with. But we do outline, we do characterizations, we do setting, we work on the history and background of the story. And then once we've got all of those things set up into what most people call their Bible, I'm not sure why they call it Bible, but they do. Then I will work with them on the accountability and consistency of writing regularly, because that's the only way you're going to get it done, is if you do it on a regular basis. If you're going 3 to 4 weeks without the inspiration and then writing 5,000 words one day and then going 3 to 4 weeks without inspiration, it's going to take you a really long time.
And that's what I've heard a lot. Because I've been watching a lot of comic book writers' streams and advice and everything. Not because I'm actually interested in writing comics books or anything. It's just I kind of like these guys and their personalities, and it's interesting to me. And live streams are fun too because you get to chat with them and ask them questions. It's basically free advice in case
Mhm.
I ever do feel like writing a comic book or something like that. But that was something that I hear over and over from a few different writers is it does not matter if you feel like writing or not, or are inspired or not. You just got to sit down and write.
Yep. Even if what you write is trash, at least you're writing it and it could turn out to be useful later. That's why my goal for myself for the longest time and how I wrote practically all of my books in such a short period was to start with 100 words every day, try to spend at least an hour on it. If I get into the flow, I'll spend more. But if I'm not in the flow and I feel like it all sucks, as long as I work that hour and hit 100 words, I was good. As I progressed through learning how to do all of this, it became my goals changed. It was 100, then it was 300, then it was 500. Nowadays, I clock about 1,500 every day that I sit down to write for 1 hour, which I've been told is insane. And it just feels natural to me at this point.
Now, has writing been something that you've always been interested since a young child, or is this something that came it? What kind of things when you were younger did you like to write about?
Well, I have to attribute it to my uncle. When I was, I think, 11, he started coming to visit and bringing a shoebox with him. And in that shoebox was dime store sci-fi and fantasy books. The very small 5x7 paperback, dime store novel sized sci-fi and fantasy books, things that he had read and had just kept on his shelf and went, I need to get rid of some stuff. So I'll see if he wants them. And he'd bring them with him and just give me the box. Say, here, I brought these books. I thought you might be interested in them. And initially I wasn't, but I guess he saw from me playing with toys, like, the old Star Wars action figures, that I might. So I started reading them and became absolutely obsessed with, Robert Heinlein, J.R.R. Tolkien, Roger Zelazny, and then later on R.A. Salvatore and some of the more modern fantasy authors. But I always wanted to write after that. Always wanted to, but everyone that I knew in my family said the same thing that everybody hears. You can't make money as a writer.
Right.
Got to do something that actually pays your bills. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point.
So then, well, how did you develop your skill? Are you a self-employed writer at this point in time, or are you doing side gigs? What's your deal?
I am not a self-employed writer. I'm a self-employed coach. My Whimsyland business pays all of my bills, and it gives me the freedom to spend more time on writing and marketing and all of the stuff that everybody else in the indie sphere tears their hair out and says, I don't have time to do. Thankfully, I do, but that's because of the coaching business. And that's because I was a teacher for 10 years. So I understand how to work with people and get them into that pathway to learning something new because I've done it for so long.
Well, that's fantastic, actually, that you've been able to build your coaching business. How long have you been working on that, by the way?
3 years.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What were you doing before that?
Well, like I said, I was a actual public education teacher for 10 years. Then the COVID epidemic occurred, or the coof, or whatever we want to call it. You can take the soft route or we can take the hard route. Your call. I've gotten in trouble for constantly referring to it as the Wu flu before. So,
oh, dude, you can bag on COVID all you want.
Cheers to
on
that.
This channel. Yes, absolutely. Holy moly. Gosh, it's been a
Yeah,
while since
that
I've heard
happened.
Woo Flu though. That one kind of escaped my memory that we were all calling it that for a while.
Yep, the Woo flu. Yeah,
Yep.
so that happened, and my area, which is Pennsylvania, East Coast, the cities are all extremely Democrat, and the rural areas are all extremely, Republican and conservative. But I happen to live just outside of Philadelphia, so I'm in liberal yuppie hell, and had been quietly passing under the radar for a decade as a teacher until the COVID stuff happened. And my refusal to be forced into getting the vaccines and boosters and all of that stuff culminated in me ending up sadly in front of the tribunal firing squad of the school board. So it is what it
Oh,
is.
kind of sounds like an interesting story though. I,
It was a, it
now,
was a weird one.
were you stressing about it at the time, or you're like, I'm just, I'm holding firm to this. What happens, happens.
Well, they were a bit sneaky about it. When speaking to the rep who didn't agree with anything that I was putting my foot down on, so they kind of set me up for it. We had entered into a couple of smaller meetings for dialogues about how we would resolve this issue. And then suddenly I go in for another meeting, and I've got the entire school board at a table in front of me. They've got a lawyer standing next to the table. They've got a stenographer on the other side with all the equipment laid out. And the superintendent is in a chair in the side of the room, as far away from everything that's happening, going like this.
Mm-hmm.
So we got about 10 minutes into the lawyer's review of all of the information and all of the transcripts of all of our meetings before I stood up and said, look, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want my time wasted either. Not changing my stance on this. I asked for a religious exemption. You denied it. I'm not going to sit here by myself at this table on the other side of this room. See ya.
Yeah. Well, so you're in, I'm sure it's just gotten worse as far as what public education is now. Did you enjoy being a public education teacher, or were you kind of shocked at the students you were receiving?
When I was a student teacher, yes, but that was over 10 years. Actually, by now it's been almost 15. So it was a bit of a different world. When I was student teaching, I was very excited. When I got into it and actually started getting my own classroom, very excited, but the luster fell off of that real fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird world. It's a very weird world to walk into, and it takes a bit to get used to it. At least in my district, I don't know, it might be the same everywhere, but I haven't really traveled into other school districts to find out much. But in mine, in between classes and during recess periods and whatnot, the teachers in each specific section, because for some reason our schools were set up like squares and each floor was a sector, basically. They would all come out into the middle and just cluck like hens, like just with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I was never interested in any of that. So I was in my room doing stuff. And because I never came out and got involved in the gossip game, I wasn't really well received by the rest of my peers.
Right.
I just wanted to come in, teach kids, and go home.
Yep. That sounds about right. I'm kind of shocked I never was a teacher, although I did do preschool for a while, which I really enjoyed. Preschoolers are just a blast. They haven't been ruined yet.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they're fantastic. They love to learn things, and they're just such a joyous gaggle of kids. I did that too for a couple of years. I had wanted to continue to teach, so I tried private institutions, and I ended up working with a couple of childcare centers that did preschool education and extended education, some homeschool style programs, which were really interesting in the time. And me and a couple of other of the teachers actually wrote a curriculum that taught parents how to teach their kids if they want to homeschool.
That is absolutely, I think that's something that needs to be done. If you have a child that's in preschool, that should be curriculum for the parents with children in preschool. That is going to help children, help parents through the rest of the public education system, maybe. Who knows?
Or it gives you the option to not bother and just continue homeschooling, which I took my daughter out in 3rd grade and never looked back. She wanted to go back for high school because she wanted to make friends and, you know, all of that stuff. So she begged me to go back for high school, but I was content to homeschool her through her entire education if I needed to.
So did she do the 4 years of high school?
Yes.
Do you remember, was that any kind of problem?
Academically, no, she was very good. She had a few minor issues acclimating to it in the first year because she'd been with me learning instead. So that first year, her sophomore year, she was a little extra stressed out, but socially it was just a constant stream of me having to unindoctrinate my kid every time she came home from school. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
The dinner conversations we had were nuts and were frankly terrifying.
Yeah, but she did all 4 years though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wanted to just give a shout out real quick to Madness Comic Network. Creative Chaos is replayed on Madness Comic Network's shows, usually on Fridays. Also, Guilty Gearhead has popped in and said that you getting fired was their loss because Daniel's awesome.
Thank you.
And then George Washington X says almost every public school system looks like high school now. Seriously. He said seriously.
Yeah,
and then
sad but true.
Thank you to Prairie Fire and Paul Thaddeus for checking in over on Build. All right. That does that. So I was curious, talking about just thinking about your coaching service, have you ever had anybody that came in that was they had absolutely no writing skills that, where was it? I framed it more funny that you were kind of blown away. Like, how does somebody not know how to write this? Or, how is somebody this horrible?
I've never had a client come in for coaching that had no writing skill whatsoever. I think everybody understands the concept. They just need to refine the rough spots out of their way of communicating. Like, we all have what's called the narrative voice, the way we tell stories. And I look at that kind of like when you're hanging out with friends. You have a story that you want to tell your friends that you think is absolutely hilarious. The way you tell that story is the way you should tell all of your stories, and that includes writing. But there are certain rules to publication that if you vary too far out of those rules, the customer base, the average person goes, So that's what I teach them to do instead. I try to lean on their narrative voice, but I have had clients for my editing service where I've gotten books that I made my first read through and then just went, this is going to take forever to sort out. But by the time we were done, it was fantastic.
Nice. Very good. Do you have people that come back often for your services, or usually one-time clients?
No, most of my clients are repeat clients, specifically the short story and blog style writers who do serials for like Royal Road, stuff like that. Those ones come back very frequently, but most of my clients have returned at least once to do another book with me, and most likely will in the future as long as they continue to succeed. But it's always a concern to think about, because writing the book is only half the battle. When you're an indie creator, you have to sell the book to the rest of the world, and that's a much more daunting task than it is to put 100 to 150,000 words on a document and then clean it up with me for a couple of weeks. It's
Yeah.
a
Well,
big beast to try and eat.
and I think that's maybe something I would say is the biggest challenge within the indie sphere, period, especially if you're talking about artists and writers, because there's so much kind of insecurity built in with, the artistic type and everything.
Yeah.
Then you have to go out and sell yourself on top of that.
Mhm.
It's kind of surprising that anything indie goes anywhere ever.
Well, most of the time, unfortunately, it doesn't go far. But if you can get 100 people interested in what you've created, you're good. You can only go up from there. If you can't get 100 people interested in what you're doing, you need to sort of evaluate and maybe pivot in a different direction with your idea. But it's not that difficult to find 100 people that are interested in something that is cool. I mean, every single unfortunate Hollywood production that's been put out in the last like 8 years is somebody else's creation. Either it's a reboot or it's based on this or based on that, and they don't have an original idea anymore. And yet they still get more than 100 people to watch their movies. So it's not that difficult for you to do with an original concept, as long as it's fun, engaging, and lasting in the person's mind.
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, so we have crossed our 30-minute mark, where usually I let my guests talk about themselves for 30 minutes, and then it's all
Oh,
back
God.
on, and then it's all back to me. So we're gonna run into our segments now. And my first one is mansplain. I
Ooh.
love I love when men mansplain to me, because I'm just a girl and I need to have things explained to me. And when we met on Iron Age Nights, I noticed you had that epic sword behind you that you were kind enough to share and pull out. I'm not
Which
going to
one?
make you the one on your right. Yeah, I don't know if you remember, you unsheathed it and then I made you
yeah.
like move back. You had to adjust your whole thing. Um, so thank you for sharing your sword with me.
Yeah, that was a
But
fun backstage. That was.
it was a really fun backstage. We hung out for way too long, and I realized the next day when I checked my my little decanter, I drank way too much whiskey. I was like, "Oh wow, that was a fun
Yeah.
backstage." But so after, when you were showing me your sword, then you said that you participate in the Society for Creative Acronism.
Anachronism.
And can
Yeah.
anachronism. Can you explain to me and the audience exactly what that is, and also why some men enjoy beating the shit out of each other, even if it's pretense?
Well, no. Okay, so the SCA, or Society for Creative Anachronism, is a reenactment group, very similar to those who have, nowadays it's pretty common, live action role playing. The Civil War reenactments that you see at, say, Gettysburg or any of the famous battlefields, those sorts of things, but it's medieval or Renaissance or something in a much further period of time. Most of the time, yes. Yes, indeed. So this thing is a reproduction of Cloud's Buster Sword from Final Fantasy VII. Yes, it is full steel, and yes, I did smash through a car bumper with it at one point just to test it
Oh.
out. That was interesting. I could only get one swing, and it was really me just getting it about here and then letting the weight do the work. But anyways, SCA, Markland, medieval reenacting, stuff like that is most of the time just a fun way to spend a weekend with friends. And for guys, we get a little too into the battle side of it all, which is very specifically designed to minimize actual damage to people, foam reproductions of accurate medieval weaponry. The Buster Sword in foam would not fly in this sort of scenario. It would actually have to be something that's medieval accurate or Dark Ages accurate or whatever time period that we're doing that function in. Same thing with the clothes. A lot of it is social. People will scoff if your outfit is a mishmash of different time periods and not historically accurate. So it's generally peer pressure that makes you want to do it right.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, especially because, and this is no offense to you or anybody that does this kind of stuff. I think that kind of stuff kind of like it really attracts the nerds and dorks,
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
And it's like to be made fun of by other nerds and dorks who have been made fun of their whole life, just like you. Yeah, that's the worst.
Oh yeah. Social hierarchies exist in everything, including nerd stuff.
Right.
I mean, Civil War reenacting is a little bit more widely accepted than medieval reenacting is, only because it was such a huge part of America's history. So people who Civil War reenact and go for that authenticity, they kind of get looked at as antiquarians, historians, sometimes even college professors of history get involved in that sort of thing, and they're never thought of as the geeks and dorks.
Oh
it's
my
only
gosh.
those of us who put the chain mail and plate mail on and march out into a field holding a 7-foot foam sword that get laughed at, and rightly so.
And you're all okay with it. That is so funny. I
Absolutely.
never thought of that though, because yes, of course, I don't think anybody thinks of the Civil War reenactors as nerds or dorks, even though they're history nerds.
A lot of them are history nerds, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really funny. I'd never thought of that. All right, and then but you didn't really touch on what is it about men enjoying beating the shit out of each other?
Oh, primal instinct.
So it's just kind of what it is.
That's just man tribe stuff. It's what we do. You get a group of 5-year-old boys together and take them out into the play yard, and they literally will raid everyone around them in a tight covert unit. They may not understand how to strategically do it, but they will darn try.
Right.
It's in our DNA to band together as boys and try to succeed at a goal. And in this case, it's beat the piss out of the other guys.
Yeah. Well, that's something too, because I had only learned about this maybe, 3 years ago, because I have a friend that does it. And he was explaining it to me, and I was trying to wrap my head around, what the whole thing was. And over the years, since we've been developing our friendship, I've learned more and more about it. But he tells me, you guys really do get injured with these weapons that are not real weapons.
Oh, yeah, it can happen. Yeah, concussions mostly. Very, very rarely do you actually break a limb. And most of the time, it turns out that whoever did the breaking, their weapon wasn't correctly created, or they cut a corner somewhere. And most of the time it's an accident. It's not intentional. It was just I put this together one weekend and never checked it before I brought it to the field. We tried to safeguard against that with coordinators who check the weapons thoroughly before they enter into play. But, accidents do happen. A lot of concussions, though, foam with a PVC pipe running down the center of it, banging up against your helmet repeatedly. It's going to ring your
Right.
bell.
Right. Okay, cool. Well, I really appreciate the mansplain on that. Thank you so much, Daniel. It
No
is
problem.
time that we head into Conspiracy Corner because I've got some questions
Ooh.
for you. Mhm.
I wanna live with a conspiracy girl. I could be prepping the rest of my life with a conspiracy girl.
Those weren't even.
All right, I've got my super protective tinfoil hat on, so you can go as deep as you want. Now, because you basically already outed yourself as a conspiracy theorist because you were talking about how you wouldn't get the jibby jab, even so much to have lost your most beloved job as a public school teacher. And me, I'm personally unashamed to be a conspiracy theorist because I endlessly question the official narrative of basically anything that comes across my path. Do you do that?
Constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Go on.
I can't. Now, I can't take anything anyone says, at least publicly, like in any sort of, I guess, what you would consider mainstream forum. So news reporters, commentators for political parties, politicians, obviously, anybody. I can't take anything that they say. I would rather, many of your viewers probably have never heard of him, but I would rather take Royce's drunken rant position over any person in the media.
Yeah.
On face value, I'd be like, yes, you are absolutely right, drunk redneck, let's go. Anybody in the media is like, hey, and I'm like,
Okay, so for anybody in my audience, which by the way, just so you know, Daniel, I do not have a huge audience, but Royce is the host of the show that Daniel's on weekly called Iron Age Nights. You can find that on A Drink with Crazy's channel, or A Drink with Crazy is what you put into YouTube and you can find him.
Yep,
it's
that
a fun
would be
show.
Royce's show. He does Comic Shop Wednesdays. He does his own content creation and other things, as well as the Friday night interview show, IAK. So he's got a lot of cool stuff on there, and we like to wind him up and let him rant whenever we get together. It's wonderful fun.
Yes, and you know what I really like about him is he's just genuine.
Mm-hmm.
I've over the last, gosh, I guess I've kind of been watching. I'm not one of those content consumers that constantly watches everything every one person does.
Yeah,
so
nor am I.
I float around, so, and I've watched all of his different shows and they are pretty different from one another. But yeah, that guy can rant, and they do get a little crazy too. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? But I love him.
Yeah, he's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. So, well, give me an example, because we're still in conspiracy corner. Like, what would be like one of your like top conspiracy theories that might seem crazy to an outsider that you believe is true, or like 95% true?
I don't think I have any personally that I believe is 95% true. I tend to operate under the assumption that everyone is stupid.
Okay.
That works for me. I like to look things up and confirm them. My mother and my stepfather, they love talking about this stuff, mostly as just a playful exercise. So when we have family meals over the weekends, we will get into some crazy discussions about Commander Thor, the lizard people who live underneath the earth, and how they use Vatican tunnels and all this other stuff. And I'll just be like, okay. And then I'll start looking on my phone and trying to bring up some of the information that they're talking about. Like, where do you hear this stuff? And they're like, oh, this guy said it on his podcast. And I'm like, okay, now I got to go look at him.
Uh-huh.
So it's a lot of very fast research.
Okay.
So I don't think there's any conspiracy theory out there that I would say I 95% believe in. I can
Okay.
get behind some of them to a certain extent, like the age-old argument of did we actually go to the moon, or was the flag placement on a set in, I think it was Arizona or Nevada or somewhere deserty. A part of me can say yes to both. Yeah, we did send a shuttle out there. And yeah, they probably shot that whole iconic moment here on Earth to make it look picture perfect. I could
Right.
see the government doing that as propaganda. So that's
All
my
right.
idea of confirmation or not, is whether or not I can see them doing it.
All right. Well, that was quite a reasonable answer for Conspiracy Corner. And while you leave me a little disappointed, I can appreciate it. All right.
I'll say this: they are absolutely turning the frogs gay. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of proven, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of what I mean in Conspiracy Corner. It's not actual conspiracy theories. It's just everything's a fucking conspiracy theory these days.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Even
Cool.
people's deaths. It's crazy.
Even what?
Even people's deaths. And that I kind of have a soft heart when it comes to stuff like that. So when I start hearing insane things coming out about so and so being involved in some insane thing and that's why they died, other than they were just sick or old or drug overdose, or even to the worst extent, and probably the one that pisses me off the most, they commit suicide, and people start drumming up crazy reasons for why. That upsets me.
Okay.
I mean, I get that you want to make sense of it all, but there's really no reason to get that outlandish. Sorry.
Okay.
Bit of a
Yeah,
somber
no.
note at the end there.
No, that is okay because we're about to turn it up a notch and get back to some fun times because we're going into our Flip City branded segment, which I do not have a stinger for yet. And I think I've been saying for 2 months I was going to make one. We'll eventually get there. But so just so you know, our branded segment is where we bring up a piece of Flip City content to read. You were kind enough when I went over on Iron Age Nights to play the Karen role for our Mangina thing, and we had a good time with that. This one's
I
a
still
little
can't
more
believe
like
I pulled that off.
you really did. I'm not going to make you play Mangina tonight because we've already done Mangina a couple times on the show. What I have for you tonight is a satirical news-ish style article called Get Ready to Die. What this is Flip City has been on a mission to seed the language and get people to start calling diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, actually getting them to call them die programs, because in our opinion, that's what they really are. They are die programs. They want institutions to die. They may even want you to die. So I was hoping that you would read one of our 4 pieces of this news piece. I'm going to read you in with this first slide, and then you're going to read basically one of our 4 pieces. Is that cool with you?
Absolutely.
All right. So sometimes life just isn't fair. What can you do about it? Well, now you can make life fair, thanks to new standards and goals rolling out all around the world. Yes, you can qualify for jobs you are completely unqualified for. Gone are the days of the best man for the job. Now the work can go to any dumb slob. Because nothing, including your life, is more important than diversity, inclusion, and equity. So get ready to die.
My turn.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Flight of the Unqualified. For those elitist snobs who think piloting a commercial jet aircraft makes them part of an exclusive group, think again. American, Southwest, United Airlines, and others look to liberate the skies, competing to lead the industry in playing equity games with their paying passengers' lives. A spate of recent runway incursions and near miss incidents have eyes on the skies. For example, a close call between FedEx and Southwest Airlines planes at Austin Bergstrom International Airport in Texas in February forced an FAA safety summit. Southwest's Vice President of Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity, the actual job title, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Juan Suarez, have previously sent an internal memo announcing that DIE policies were the guiding force behind the airline's mission and not, God forbid, safe travel. Thanks to these progressive policies, the cockpit is no longer the exclusive domain of the privileged and well-trained. Now, anyone who has ever dared to dream of flying an airplane is entitled to make his, her, their dreams come true. It's actually easier than one might think, and much like your favorite PlayStation title, once you get going and start pushing buttons, things start to make sense. No, they don't. Now, while this all sounds great, it threatens to create an onboard atmosphere where pilot skills and conduct can never be questioned, poor performance is tolerated, and sissy slap cockpit fights must be allowed to play out. I'd pay to see that. Without reform, your favorite fake news outlet may soon be running these damage control headlines. Nobody said air travel was safe.
Nice. And what we're going to do now, great read, by the way, Daniel.
Thank you.
We're just going to flip through the last few slides. And so we had train wrecks in effects.
Rex effects.
Banks go boom. And doctored medicine.
Oh,
I'm sure they're on TikTok there. So this was published in our volume 17, which was around this time last year. So if you guys want to kind of get the gift that keeps on giving, because that airline thing just, the die programs with airlines, it just keeps giving. So you can always flip back in Flip City issues and reread things, and you will see that kind of themes pop up over and over again that work over the years. So what do you think? Do you think we'll be successful in getting people to start calling them die programs? It makes sense to me.
I think they intentionally did it that way because they realized that they were going to get called that. So I'm all for it. I'll start calling them die programs.
Please do.
Every day now.
Thank you, because I do it all the time whenever I'm in a live chat and they start talking about DEI programs. I'm like, no, call them die programs. Because a good friend of mine, the same one that does the SCA, he seeds language. That is like one of his missions because he's a wordsmith. Nice. And he swears, and I believe him because I've seen him do another thing as well, but he swears he was the one to get gaslight popularized, because he was just going in a bunch of chats and putting it everywhere. And then gaslighting became kind of a popular term. Because he's magical like that. I think he did. But yeah,
I like the origin of gaslighting. That's it's a phenomenal story. I encourage everybody to look it up.
Yes. It is based on the movie, right? That's the origin.
Yes.
Okay.
Most people don't actually know that. That's the crazy part. Most people who, especially those who use it, don't really understand where it came from. It was a film meant to be a suspense thriller. It was not meant to be something that people were actually accused of doing. It was fiction.
You know what shocked me is do you remember the TV series from the 90s called Northern Exposure?
Oh yes.
Okay, did you know okay, so both me and my husband were huge fans of that show, and we had a really hard time once things went over to streaming because they were not letting it stream anywhere, but it
Mhm.
just started streaming on Amazon again. So we binged
Mm.
it, and I binged it twice already because I freaking love that show. David Chase, yes.
Mhm.
He's so brilliant. Oh, and then after that, we went and binged Sopranos again because we do that maybe every 5 years. We're like, okay, time to watch Sopranos again. Anyway,
Fair enough.
so oh, two times in Northern Exposure, Flashman uses gaslight. Actually,
Mhm.
he said, "Don't you gaslight me," and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was really used as a term like that until recently.
It was a
So
theater nerd term for the longest time, and the theater nerds unfortunately are now in government and social media influencing.
it
So yeah,
makes
they're going to use it.
sense.
Hmm.
It totally makes sense. Theater nerds are government. Yeah, interesting. All right. Well, thank you so much, Daniel. Where can everybody find you?
Easiest place to find me is on the Twix, as we call it on IAK, which is Twitter/X at Mr. DP Riley, and my website, whimsyland.org. I do have a link tree attached to my Twitter profile that has easy links to everything I've created and all the crazy stuff that I do. But whimsyland.org is my home base. It has the same things plus all of the services that I offer and easy ways to get in contact with me.
All right. And just to let you know, in the description of the video and the pinned comments where I can pin comments, I did put your link tree, and I hope that's okay.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I
So,
spent a solid 2 hours of hard work on putting that thing together.
oh, really? It is actually a pretty attractive link tree. I
I
think I've only
tried.
worked on mine for like 45 minutes, so it's not nearly as pretty.
Most of that effort was because I really wanted to use that background image from my comic book and could not find a color and font that actually stands out against it. So I was just going back and forth with different fonts and colors, and then I settled on the gold and went, screw it. I don't care if anybody can see my name or not. I want them to look at the picture.
All right. Well, that works for me. I just wanted to give a final shout out to the chat. Thank you so much for everybody that checked in over on Pilled. Remember to hit that red pill on your way out. You can even share the stream if you want. I don't think we're
Please
going to
do.
be around very much longer, but they can always go check the replay. My one and only mod over on YouTube checked in. Great hater. Thank you for popping in, saying what's up. Skunk 12, so happy to see you again. And then of course, Guilty Gearhead, your buddy, and I think I've run into him in other chats.
Yeah,
Because I'm
he's
kind of
awesome.
floating around that whole Iron Age Knights circle a little bit. Because you guys are fun. You guys are fun in the chat. All those chat people within the Iron Age, I think that kind of float around the whole drink with crazy. They seem like the funnest people.
Oh yeah,
Like they're not all
we are.
stressed.
Yeah, we're all having a really good time. Most of us are creators that just sort of orbit Royce and end up working together.
Yes. And that's something too. I've been able to find a couple of musicians that are hanging out in those circles that have been
Yep.
my opening band for Creative Chaos, and they were excited to be.
Very cool.
It's why I love this show. It's like I'm not about like attracting the biggest names or anything like that, which isn't great for growth, but it really is. I just want to connect with other indie creators and have fun and maybe potentially collaborate in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, that's my whole goal. I have a stream that I do on Sunday afternoons called The Freelancer, but most of it is just you watching me type and hopefully getting inspired to work on your project while I do it. That's the whole idea behind it, is to say, hey, on this day for 1 hour, I'm writing and you should be writing too.
Okay.
We talk a little bit in between, but most of the time it's just cool music playing and me going,
Yep, because I checked out your stream. I think it was after I had seen that you posted it on Twitter or something. So I clicked on it and it was after the case, after it ended. But I was like, what's he doing anyways? I'm like, No way. Is he literally just sitting there typing?
I am Bob Rawson on YouTube.
No, it made me laugh. I'm like, I don't think I've seen anybody do this before.
There are a couple people who do. My friend Caro Brown, who works with Eric July and the Ripperverse, she also does them as ways to keep herself accountable and help others, which I thought was fantastic and was a bit of the inspiration in me doing it. I just do it once a week because it's really the only opportunity I have to sit down and stream. I'm way too busy.
Nice. Well, I'm happy that you are staying on task and
Doing my best.
that you've built your business up enough to support yourself within 3 years. Bravo on that. That is not
Thank you.
easy.
No, it was not.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't even know the half of it. So again, thank you to everybody that popped in tonight to say what is up. Please like, share, subscribe. And next week I will have my co-host back, Batman, and we'll have a good time. And next week's guest, I have Justin Belmont of Belmont Press, and
Nice.
his most recent comic was Smokes the Fox. So we'll be talking about that. And apparently Justin's very, very much a pothead. So we'll see if he's, all together next week. So thank you everybody for being here, and we will see you next week on Creative Chaos. Bye.